And once again, I want to say greetings to each and every one of you, Aquaba, and welcome. Welcome to another round of the Conscious Roster Report here on LIB Radio, LIB TV, here on livinginblack.com. My name is Keely Awado, aka the Conscious Roster. Weekday mornings, you and I get together live. We come at you from 9 a.m. Pacific time. That's 12 noon Eastern Time, 5 p.m. GMT, and 8 p.m. East Africa Time. We get together with you and we deal with culture, consciousness, historical perspectives. We deal with entertainment, economics, education, health, labor, law, politics, religion, family, conflict, future studies, all areas of human interactivity and development. Today's date is Tuesday, the 16th of September, 2024. 2025 in the Western calendar. This corresponds to the year 6266 in the Canadian calendar, to which we have realigned our cultural clock. Welcome to the 7th millennium. You have found your family in a peaceful place here on LIB Radio, LIB TV, livinginblack.com. In the 7th millennium, that's where we are. That's what we do. And that's where you have encountered us, the 7th millennium, where we contrast things that are happening in the third millennium, not the third millennium, the third millennium, Western time, to the 6th millennium. We have shot forward 4,240 years into the future, which is actually recovering that prehistory. And that's a very, very important fact. Today, here's what we have on the table for you and I to study today. The conversation is entitled Sharing Critiques of Oncology in the U.S. Today, we examine contemporary critiques of the state of oncology treatment in the U.S. According to the American Cancer Society's official page, the lifetime risk of being diagnosed with cancer in the United States is approximately 39.9% for men, or about 2 in 5 men, and 39.0% for women, also close to 2 in 5 women. All of this, despite the founding of the American Cancer Society in May 1913. Bear with me. Let me clear my throat. Hopefully we got that out of the way. All of this, despite the founding of the American Cancer Society in May of 1913. And they're reported raising as much as $900 million annually for ongoing research. In the U.S. and the U.K., annual spending for cancer therapy exceeds $200 billion. And in the U.K., in the U.S., I should say, 200 billion in the U.S. and in the U.K., it is estimated to cost as much as 15 billion pounds, billion with a B. Thus, for our best self-interest, prevention is the best strategy. Prevention is the best strategy. We cannot overemphasize that point. Prevention is the best strategy. And I will say this much as I come over to the shelf and grab my book, A Year Against Cancer. Grab that book from the bookshelf, A Year Against Cancer. This is our prevention strategy. A Year Against Cancer with Superfood Solutions. Prevention is the best strategy. Cannot overemphasize that point. Prevention is the best strategy. So we're going to go into the conversation for today. We welcome you, our listening audience, to participate as well. We encourage you to hit the like button if you enjoy what you're hearing. Do hit the like button. Share it with your friends and or family. And let's do the best that we can do to put ourselves in a position to be beyond the reach of the cancer industries. Let's get this party started. So I've got quite a bit of research on the table today, and I'm going to begin actually with this document. It is entitled 25 Cancer Quotes That Will Shock You. And this is from the author of the book Methylene Blue. I don't know what the book is about. And we understand this video, he put up a video on this link, and the video is actually not, YouTube has taken it down. Now, that's not to say that it's misinformation, disinformation. YouTube took all my videos down, some 2,000 of them. And so I know what it means to be tricked, to be trapped by YouTube, by the billionaire class. And I am in open rebellion over the billionaires class's activities. And this is something that we should be taking personal responsibility of it. You know, and I know, Bill Gates is amongst the world's richest billionaires. And we do know that billionaire Bill Gates is spending much of his money on reducing the world's population, spending it on mass vaccination campaigns. Bill Gates is spending his money on genetically engineered crops. And he's spending a lot of the money on the World Health Organization. I contend that the evidence shows that if you look deep into how these various policies interact, it is all about restricting the world's population, which is today at 8.2 billion people on Mother Earth. And from my understanding, from what I have read, the oligarchy intends to shrink that down to as few as 2 to 3 billion people. So it is what it is. I'm going to begin with these quotes. These quotes are from legitimate health researchers, etc. And I pulled a number of them together. I'm going to pull out the ones that I got pulled together. And just a few little facts we're going to go into as we go up to this dialogue today. This means, on average in America, 2 out of every 5 people will be diagnosed with some form of cancer during their lifetime. These estimates come from large-scale data collected by the National Cancer Institute's SEER program and reflect population-wide averages. Individual risk can vary significantly based on factors like genetics. I cannot control my genetics. I can only control how my genetics are expressed, and that is called epigenetic. Based upon factors like genetics, lifestyle, environment, detoxification strategies, and exposure to carcinogens. Just a little bit more of these statistics. For example, breast cancer has a lifetime risk of 13.1% for women. Prostate cancer has a lifetime risk of 12.8% for men. Lung cancer affects 5.8% of men and 4.7% of women. The state of oncology medicine in the United States faces significant systemic challenges that threaten the sustainability and accessibility of high-quality cancer care. A central critique is the financial strain on community oncology practices, which are increasingly unable to survive due to outdated Medicare reimbursement models, repeated rate fee schedule cuts, and the failure to adjust payments for inflation. These financial pressures are exacerbated by the rising costs of oncology drugs, many of which are reimbursed at unsustainable rates, placing immense burden on independent practices. The shift toward value-based care adds administrative complexity with minimal financial reward, a burden particularly difficult for smaller practices to manage. Now, all of this gets a little crazy, gets a little confusing. Stick with me. Ultimately, there is but one decision that you must make. And that is, do I commit my life to preventing cancer? Or do I continue with the behaviors that I am currently living in and hope that I am one of those 3 out of 5 people in the United States that will not be diagnosed with cancer during my lifetime? It's kind of risky. It's kind of risky, especially when the behavioral changes are not so unpleasant. They're not so difficult. The consolidation, I'm going to do this. I'm going to switch on over right now where I have a piece of video queued up. And let's take a little look at this piece of video. I'm going to read a couple more paragraphs and then we're going to go to the video. Bear with me. I'm learning as I am doing. The consolidation of independent oncology practices by large hospital systems and private equity firms is a major trend driven by financial necessity, but it raises serious concerns. While hospital acquisitions may offer short-term financial relief through better payer negotiations, they often lead to higher patient costs, as hospital-based care is significantly more expensive than community-based services. That's a very important point. Hospital-based care is significantly more expensive than community-based services. Those community-based services, in my mind, would include teaching the public how to prevent cancer. Furthermore, private equity ownership introduces profit-driven motives that can result in cost-cutting measures, reduced staffing, and pressure on physicians to see more patients in less time, potentially compromising care quality. This consolidation also reduces competition and patient choice, contributing to a less diverse and potentially less innovative oncology landscape. Administrative burdens are another pervasive issue, with oncologists spending excessive time on paperwork and electronic health records, EHR promises of interoperability. EHRs remain largely unable to transfer data seamlessly between systems, hindering care coordination and efficiency. This administrative fatigue, combined with the emotional toll of advocating for treatment approvals, contributes to widespread physician burnout and early retirements, further straining an already inadequate workforce. Workforce shortages are a critical concern, with the number of practicing oncologists failing to keep pace with the growing demand for cancer care. That growing demand is something we're going to be focusing on a little bit later. You're going to be shocked at the number of younger people in the American population being diagnosed with cancer. It is getting far worse, and it's only going to get worse. as the years go by and these millennials grow into middle and older ages. This shortage is particularly acute in rural areas where access to oncologists is limited, leading to poor cancer screening rates, late stage diagnoses, and fewer treatment options. The lack of clinical trials, not skills, trials in rural and underserved communities is a significant disparity, with over 90% of adult cancer patients not participating in trials and 56% lacking access to trials at their care site. This inequity is compounded by the fact that 70% of U.S. counties have no active clinical trials, and 98% of counties with the highest cancer mortality lack trial availability. The delivery of oncology care itself is often fragmented, with poor communication between specialists and inadequate transition planning from treatment to survivorship care, leading to complications and avoidable hospitalizations. The increasing number of cancer survivors who require long-term management for treatment side effects and secondary health issues further stresses the system. Yet many oncologists report that they do not offer adequate support for these needs. Additionally, the integration of new technologies like artificial intelligence into clinical practice is hindered by a lack of insurance coverage, inadequate regulatory frameworks, and insufficient healthcare infrastructure, potentially leading to financial toxicity for patients. In summary, the U.S. oncology system is at a critical juncture, characterized by unsustainable financial models, excessive administrative burdens, workforce strategies, geographic disparities, and a lack of innovation in care delivery and technology adoption. These interconnected challenges threaten the long-term viability of community-based oncology and the equitable delivery of high-quality cancer care nationwide. So that is that particular report. And let me introduce this next piece of video I'm going to be sharing. A report from the American Cancer Society indicates that adults born between 1920 and 1990 in the U.S. show increasing cancer rates, with Gen X and millennials at higher risk for 17 types of cancer compared to older generation. This trend highlights the need for effective interventions to address the rising burden of early onset cancers. So that's the next part of the focus we want to deal with today, early onset cancers. I queued up this video a little bit earlier. The video is a little bit long, so at a certain point I'm going to stop it and I'm going to fast forward. But this video deals with the rising risk of cancer among millennials and Gen Xers in the United States. So let's go right to that video. And here's what CBS News has to say. No, PBS, not CBS. PBS NewsHour has to say about cancer risk in the United States.
While cancer deaths in the U.S. have decreased in recent years, experts say one age group has seen an overall rise in cancer rates: younger Americans. William Brangham has the latest on these shifting demographics and what can be done to address it.
They're called early onset cancers, which means cancer among adults under 50, and they are on the rise. A groundbreaking report from the American Cancer Society looked at rates of 34 different kinds of cancer over several decades and found that 17 of them were more prevalent in millennials and Gen Xers. So what is going on here? Dr. Karen Knudsen is the CEO of the American Cancer Society. Dr. Knudsen, thank you so much for being here. I think the findings in this caught a lot of people by surprise. When you look at the overall study, what stands out most to you?
Well, there are some surprises here, but in fact, we've been seeing some early indicators about this rise in cancers at an earlier age over the last several years. Early onset colorectal cancer, I think, was the canary in the coal mine here, where we saw declining incidence in populations in the 65 and above, but rising in those that are 50 and younger. These are ages for which we previously not thought about someone being at risk for colorectal cancer. So clearly something is changing. And this new study highlights that, with 50%, as you said, of the studies of the cancers that we looked at on the rise in Gen Xers and millennials as compared to baby boomers.
Do we know why this is happening? Because again, the traditional, I'm no oncologist, but the traditional understanding is older people tend to get more cancers. You get cancer as you get older. Why is this happening with younger people?
So that is true, not for all, but for most cancers, age is a risk factor. So that is without question true. But when we look at these cancer rates, they are sometimes 2 to 3 times higher in incidence for the Gen X and millennial population as compared to baby boomers. So when we look at those data, we think that the typical risks are still at play. Obesity, 10 of those 17 cancers are linked to obesity. Lifestyle, so sedentary lifestyle, of course, increases cancer risk, alongside an unhealthy diet, lack of fruits, vegetables, grains, fiber, etc. So we know that those typical cancer risks are at play, but there must be something else because these rates are so different as compared to the previous generation of baby boomers.
One of the things we also are concerned about is if you get cancer, whether or not it ends up ending your life. What do we know about cancer death rates?
That's right. So when we actually looked in these 3 different age populations, we could follow cancer mortality as well in a subset of them. And we saw 5 actually that were of increased mortality rates in Gen X and millennial populations. It was liver cancer specifically for women, uterine cancer, gallbladder cancer, testicular cancer, which is not a cancer of aging, and colorectal cancer, which we talked about. So these leave then open questions for which more cancer research will be needed in order to address. And we can speculate as to what are some of these additional exposures that someone may have been subject to, or could it be a compendium of exposures, diet, and lifestyle? What I would say is...
Now, what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to pause the video. And for one, I want to point out some of the points that she was making about why so many of the young generation, Gen X and millennials, were being diagnosed for these 17 types of cancer. She did mention obesity, and we can see obesity rates in the United States are at an absolute undeniable crisis. She talked about lifestyle. And under lifestyle, I will include binge drinking among the younger populations, Gen X and millennials. Binge drinking is becoming more problematic. And the American Cancer Society says that when it comes to lowering one's risk of getting cancer, alcohol is undeniably one of the key factors that one must do. They say 0 tolerance on alcohol. Now, how many of us in our older, wiser position in life are able to say, I refuse to drink any alcohol at all? Beer, wine, brown or white whiskey, no alcohol will pass my lips. Well, that is quite contrary to the amount of advertising we're seeing. So obesity, lifestyle, an unhealthy diet, the junk food is definitely taking over the society. I like football. I watch the football games. All of the food advertised or football games, all of it, all of the food is pro-carcinogenic. So carcinogens in the society are a big, big problem. It's only getting worse as more and more chemicals are added to the food system, to the agricultural system, and we're exposed to more carcinogenic chemicals, a number of which are endocrine disrupting chemicals, which we can see, especially compared to the baby boom generation, far more endocrine disrupting chemicals are being introduced insofar as fertility reducers and a number of other subjects. So what I'm going to do right now, though, I'm going to fast forward because I have a second piece of this same video queued up, and I'm just going to fast forward to that right now. Hopefully it will allow me to fast forward this without going to commercials. So I'm going to go right into the second part of the video right now, and it looks like
is of all the cancers that we track every year, our own research
there it is.
estimates that up to 40% of them are preventable due to behavior modification. Things like having that healthy diet, staying active, maintaining a healthy body weight, of course, don't smoke, limit alcohol, and get screened. So we know that early detection saves lives, and that increased survivorship is, of course, something that is well within means for screenable cancers.
On that issue of screening, given what this study reflects, do you think we ought to be changing the guidance that we give to not just to doctors, but to individuals as far as when you get checked, how often you get checked?
Such an important question. So it's important to remember that screening is not just about your age. That's one portion, but it's also about your genetics, if you know it, your family history, your own medical history, and your risk of exposures. So never too early to, when you are at your physician, ask and take ownership of it on your own. What is the right screening plan for me? So that all of those different criteria can be taken into account. Now, as it relates to cancer screening guidelines, we of course look at this regularly. We are in the process right now of rewriting our prostate cancer screening guideline. But we were the first at the American Cancer Society to drop first colonoscopy from age 50 for people of average risk to age 45 because of these trends of early onset. So we will continue to monitor and determine whether or not the screening guidelines require additional modification.
All right. Enough of that. Enough of that. And I'm not at all rejecting the idea of early screening for various types of cancer. Colorectal cancer is one of the 17 types of cancer spreading among our younger population. And so we do deal with that. Let me just take a moment here, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to invite your comments. And Basu Nefert Ra Sashat is in the house. She says, Uja all, and greetings to you, beloved. It's always great to have you in the house. Looking at the Rumble page, Ed L. Mack is in the house. He says, greetings, Brother Keaty. Does vitamin D help us fight cancer? And is it true our best source of vitamin D is the sun? If so, why is it said that UV sunlight is bad for us? That's an interesting point, and it's a little bit complicated. A lot of it deals with the melanocyte density in your epidural layer. You are right about vitamin D. Vitamin D3 is said to be an enhancer of our immune system, allowing us to better adjust to the world that we encounter. So yes, we do want to get our vitamin D, which is not actually a vitamin. Vitamin D is actually a hormone manufactured by the body. So you and I, as melanated people, we want to get our vitamin D from the sun to the very best of our ability, but at the same time, we don't want to get too much of it because of the ultraviolet radiation. It does burn our skin. If you get burnt in the sun, and I very rarely ever get a sunburn, usually it's only once every 5 years or so for me. And that will usually come from one day of just like intensely being in the sun. Maybe once every 10 years or so. But you African people do get problems with the sun at a certain point. It's because of course, the miscegenation from the others into our group, into our race, as well as current levels of miscegenation. I do cover this in the book, A Year Against Cancer. What can I do to talk you, Brother Ed, into getting this one? What can I do? What can I say different? I can say after the fact, after someone's been diagnosed, and I had conversations every week with someone who has been diagnosed with cancer. He asked further, what is the correlation is there with obesity and cancer? Obesity raises all risks of early morbidity and mortality. Obesity, the problem with obesity is linked to hormones, the hormones, especially estrogen mimicking hormones. There are many estrogen mimicking hormones. Obesity also stores fat, and fat stores carcinogens. So therefore, a skinny person like myself, I'm not skinny, but I am lightweight, just slightly under middle weight, perfect weight for me. But a slimmer person like me has very low levels of body fat, storing built up toxins. Whereas a heavy person with more body fat is going to store up more built up toxins. There are a number of different correlations between cancer and obesity. Here, let me just real quickly do a AI web search, because that's a very good question that you ask. I'm going to do a quick AI web search. What is the link? What is the link between cancer and obesity? What are the links between obesity and cancer? And here's what the Copilot, Amazon's version, has to say. I asked the question, what are the links between obesity and cancer? And Copilot is coming back to me. Obesity isn't just a matter of weight. It's a complex condition that can significantly increase the risk of developing several types of cancer. And that is very true. I know that obesity has to do a great deal with insulin sensitivity. And insulin sensitivity also has a great deal to do with cancer. So let's go through this. Number one, biological mechanisms linking obesity to cancer. And thank you for asking that question. Chronic inflammation. Excess fat tissue can trigger long-term inflammation, which damages DNA and promotes tumor growth. 2, hormonal balances. Fat cells produce estrogen, and elevated levels are linked to hormone-sensitive cancers like breast and endometrial cancer. Point 3, insulin resistance. Obesity often leads to high insulin and insulin-like growth factor levels, which can stimulate cell proliferation and inhibit cell death, 2 hallmarks of cancer. And 4th, altered immune function. Obesity can impair immune surveillance, making it harder for the body to detect and destroy abnormal cells. So it talks about, next there is a list of the cancers most closely linked to obesity. According to the CDC and American Cancer Society, obesity is associated with an increase for at least 13 types of cancer, including number 1, breast cancer, postmenopausal; 2, colorectal cancer; 3, endometrial cancer, that is of the uterine lining; 4, esophageal cancer, tied to acid reflux and inflammation; number 5, kidney cancer; 6, pancreatic cancer; 7, liver cancer; 8, gallbladder cancer; 9 ovarian cancer, 10 thyroid cancer, 11 upper stomach cancer, 12 meningioma, a type of brain tumor linked to hormonal changes, and then number 13, multiple myeloma. And it goes on. There's other research, and it goes to talk about weight loss drugs. And I'm not into promoting weight loss drugs here on LIB Radio. I am promoting weight loss, but not through drugs, obviously. We can do it much, much better. So I'm going to copy and copy and copy all of it was a good question that you mentioned there. And I'm going to paste that one into my original research document, and I'm going to come back and be reading that in more depth a little bit longer. So thanks for that question, Brother Ed L. Mack. And good questions give us good research. There's a lot of this. And it talks about prevention and risk reduction in that same article or in the same AI search. Prevention and risk reduction, weight loss, even modest, can lower cancer risk, especially for hormone-driven cancers. 2, physical activity and balanced diet help regulate hormones, reduce inflammation, and improve immune function. And I tell you right now, my level of physical activity is at a premium state. I just finished my morning exercises. I have my afternoon exercises to go yet. But in the morning, I engage in my core exercises. I go out, I run, walk for 20 minutes, high impact interval training. And I also, I just love to exercise. And by keeping my weight low through exercise and diet, I am having a wonderful time. I encourage everyone, be like me. And also, because I am currently making meals for a client, they come by every 2 days and grab enough food for 2 days. Because I am eating what that client is eating, my body's in super shape. And I really do love making that claim and knowing that claim. And also under prevention and risk factor, metabolic screening and waist circumference measurements may offer better risk assessments than BMI alone. So metabolic screening, that's a whole different set of tests than just using the scale and a calculator to calculate my BMI. But I do agree. A waist circumference measurement is better risk than just your BMI, because a person can be muscular. They can be big, heavy, muscular muscles in different places. And that doesn't necessarily lower their risk of chronic disease, but it does distinguish a difference between a high body mass index, which is based upon your weight and your height, versus your weight alone. Very important point. Good question. And going forward, where are we at? We are at, I'm back in my document. And man, I had a lot of research today. So here is what we're looking at now. 25 cancer quotes that will shock you. And I'm going to copy, cut, and paste this link for those of you who want to study along with us all. And this is good stuff. I do definitely agree. This is pretty good stuff right here. Paste, copy, cut, and paste. I'm going to copy, cut, and paste that one more time. And waiting for my page to catch up with where I'm at. We do welcome everybody out there. If you have some comments you want to share with us today, do drop a note. We'd love to hear from you, because your opinion really does matter. So I'm copy, cut, and paste this one. And I'm going to copy, cut, and paste it one more time over here. And do, everybody, if you could please, can I get you to hit the like button? No matter where you're listening from, we would love to know that you are learning from your LIB radio. Hitting the like button is a good way of letting the algorithm know that you like what you're hearing. Now, I did have this one here, and I'm going to push this up as well. Here, let me push this one up. The link is here. And push it up on YouTube and Facebook, on my Facebook page. And here is that link as well. So next up we're still on a roll here. 25 cancer quotes that will shock you. This from endalldisease.com. Here are 7. I just took 7 of the 25. Here are 7 striking quotes from prominent doctors and researchers who have voiced concerns, serious concerns, about the state of oncology medicine in the U.S. and the U.K. I think there's more than 7 here. Number 1, from Hardin B. Jones, Dr. Hardin B. Jones, former professor of medical physics, UC Berkeley, says, quote, "It is utter nonsense to claim that catching cancer symptoms early enough will increase the patient's chances of survival. Not one scientist or study has proven that in any way." From former Professor Hardin B. Jones. Number 2, this from Dr. Stephen H. Wolf, Science Advisor, U.S. Prevention Services Task Force. Quote, "There simply is no evidence that early detection of prostate cancer improves the health of patients." Close quote. And you know, I have said that quite a bit. The man who discovered the PSA, which is said to be used to test for cancer screening, Dr. Richard Ablin. You've heard me quote from him so many times. I keep the book right here. Handy, the Great Prostate Hoax. He writes how big medicine hijacked the PSA test and caused a public health disaster. Dr. Richard J. Ablin, PhD, and Ronald Piana wrote this together. And it's true. Dr. Richard Ablin is very highly recognized in medicine, professor of pathology at the University of Arizona College of Medicine, Arizona Cancer Center, and Bio 5 Institute in Tucson, Arizona, a pioneer in prostate cancer research and immunotherapy. Dr. Ablin discovered PSA in 1970 and for decades has fought against the misuse of his discovery for screening of prostate cancer, including in a 2020 New York Times op-ed titled, quote, "The Great Prostate Mistake." So 2020 New York Times op-ed, "The Great Prostate Mistake." Do get his book. Please do. And I have a bunch of different books over here on my bookshelf about cancer and toxicities and medicine and health, natural health. We're sharing these quotes from prominent voices in oncology industries. The third one is from Dr. Peter Getz, co-founder of the Cochrane Collaboration. He says, quote, "Screening for breast cancer with mammography is unjustified." Close quote. And I will say this much: screening for breast cancer with a process called mammography is actually contradictory, because the same radiation used in mammography is said to be a significant cause of human cancers. Number 4 in our quotes, Dr. Vincent T. DeVita Jr., former director of the National Cancer Institute, quote, "There seems to be little doubt that cancer can be spread from the primary site to distant tissues. There are numerous ways that surgical manipulation could be responsible for this." And the idea there being that through surgery, little pieces of the cancer are actually cut and freed and thrown into the blood cells only to re-establish themselves at other secondary conditions, secondary locations. So cancer metastasis, the spread of cancer, could be from cancer surgery. It makes sense to me. It may not make sense to you, but I am offering it, and I do offer that up in the book, A Year Against Cancer. Number 5, Dr. Michael Retzke, Harvard researcher, writes, quote, "Surgery to remove the primary tumor often terminates dormancy, resulting in accelerated relapses." Number 6, quote, from Dr. Ralph Moss, cancer researcher and author. He writes, quote, "The cancer industry is based more on profit than on healing. Many treatments are toxic and ineffective, yet they persist because they are lucrative." Now that's a scathing indictment for which you and I might easily nod our heads, shake our heads and say, yeah, he's right. But we need to verify that. I believe it's right, but I've done a lot of verification. There are a significant number of references in my book to point to. Dr. Ralph Moss, that was his quote. Number 7, from Dr. Linus Pauling, 2-time Nobel laureate, quote, "Most cancer research is largely a fraud," close quote. That statement reportedly attributed to Dr. Linus Pauling. And that's pretty hardcore. We have a couple more that I added to this list of 7. I added 2 more. One from Dr. Ernst H. Krakowski, German professor of radiology. In 1979, he said, quote, "Manipulation of the tumor, such as severe palpitation, biopsy, or surgery, results in a sudden increase of the number of tumor cells released into blood circulation. Therefore, it should be of great concern to therapists as well as patients that already, more than 30 years ago, it was conclusively shown that cancer surgery is the main cause of metastasis. However, this research was completely ignored by the profession. It was just too awful to contemplate, and patients never got to know about it." And number 9 of these 25 quotes that I cite, "Modern cancer surgery someday will be regarded with the same kind of horror that we now regard the use of leeches in George Washington's time." That from Dr. Robert Mendelsohn. Wow, that's pretty scathing. These quotes reflect deep concerns about overdiagnosis, treatment efficacy, and the influence of profit motives in oncology. So next I'm going to go to this article. I was mentioning it earlier, and I have it up on my desktop. And it is over here. It's from the British medical journal, The Lancet. And here's what The Lancet has to say about cancer. Now, this is from an article entitled, and let me put up the title to the article, which is "Differences in Cancer Rates Among Adults Born Between 1920 and 1990 in the USA, an analysis of population-based cancer registry data. This by Hyuna Sung, PhD, et al. There were a large number of different researchers collaborating for this particular article. I'm going to put up the title one time. I'm going to put the title over here on my Rumble page. It is too long of a title to put up the link to the article with it, and therefore I'm cutting it in two parts. And here is the link to the article, and it's from The Lancet, which is considered to be one of the more prestigious medical journals in the world, and we can appreciate that. And I'll put up this link here through the article in The Lancet, and then I'm going to copy, cut, and paste both parts and put it up into my Facebook page. Copy and go here and paste it. And one more time, I'm going to paste it up here. And let me read from the very article that I've just shared with you, our listeners. This, I excerpted from the article. Here's what it says. Summary, background. Trends in cancer incidence in recent birth cohorts largely reflect changes in exposures during early life and foreshadow the future disease burden. Herein, we examine cancer incidence and mortality trends by birth cohort for 34 types of cancer in the U.S. And again, the title of this article, which was a group of Asian, Korean researchers, differences in cancer rates among adults born between 1920 and 1990 in the USA, an analysis of population-based cancer registry data. First, they deal with methods for the study. In this analysis, we obtained incidence data for 34 types of cancer and mortality data for 25 types of cancer for individuals aged 25 to 84 for the period January 1, 2000 to December 31st, 2019 from the North American Association of Central Cancer Registries and the U.S. National Center for Health Statistics, respectively. We calculated birth cohort specific incidence rate ratios, IRRs, and mortality rate ratios, MRRs, adjusted for age and period effects by nominal birth cohorts separated by 5-year intervals from 1920 to 1990. According to the findings, we extracted data for 23,654,000 patients diagnosed with 34 types of cancer and 7,348,000 deaths from 25 cancers for the period January 1, 2000 to December 31st, 2019. We found that IRRs, incident rate ratios, increased with each successive birth cohort born since approximately 1920 for 8 of 34 cancers. Notably, the incident rate was approximately 2 to 3 times higher in 1990 birth cohort than in the 1955 birth cohort for small intestine, kidney, and renal, pelvis, and pancreatic cancers in both male and female individuals, and for liver and intrahepatic bile duct cancer in female individuals. Additionally, the incident rate ratios increased in younger cohorts after a decline in older birth cohorts for 9 of the remaining cancers. estrogen receptor positive breast cancer, uterine corpus cancer, colorectal cancer, non-cardia gastric cancer, gallbladder and other biliary cancer, ovarian cancer, testicular cancer, anal cancer in male individuals, and Kaposi sarcoma in male individuals. Now, as both of those were dealing with the so-called AIDS pandemic. Across cancer types, the incident rate in the 1990 birth cohort ranged from 12% versus 1975's, bear with me, ranging from 12% for ovarian cancer to plus 169% for uterine corpus cancer, higher than the rate in the birth cohort with the lowest incident rate. The mortality rate ratios increase in successively younger birth cohorts, alongside incident rate ratios for liver and intrahepatic bile duct cancer in female individuals, uterine corpus, gallbladder, and other biliary, testicular, and colorectal cancers, while mortality rate ratios declined or stabilized in younger birth cohorts for most cancer types. So, interpretation. In 17 of 34 cancers had an increasing incidence in younger birth cohorts, including 9 that previously had declining incidence in older birth cohorts. These findings add to growing evidence of increased cancer risk in younger generations, highlighting the need to identify and tackle underlying risk factors. 10 of 17 cancers with increasing incidence in younger birth cohorts are obesity-related cancers, including colorectal, kidney, and renal pelvic cancer, gallbladder, and other biliary, uterine corpus, pancreas, cardiac-gastric, estrogen receptor positive breast, ovarian, myeloma, and liver and intrahepatic bile duct. 12, suggesting a potential role of obesity in emerging cancer trends in recent generations. Since the late 1970s, the obesity epidemic in the USA has affected individuals across all age groups. However, the most rapid rise has been among individuals aged 2 to 19 years, indicative of birth cohort effects. This hypothesis is supported by analyses of nationally representative survey data from the USA, indicating increasing odds of developing obesity, type 2 diabetes, and metabolic syndrome among generations born after those born in the 1946 to 64 cohort group known as the baby boomer generation. And that has also been linked to the increase in premature cardiometabolic mortality since 2011 and a decrease in life expectancy since 2014. Accumulating evidence underscores the substantial influence of body weight in early life, as highlighted by a recent study associating excess body weight during early adulthood, ages 18 to 40 years, with up to 18 different types of cancer. Whew. That was a lot to read. And that is a big burden. Breaking it down, it shows why You must have a strategy for reducing your weight. You must. When it's increasing all of these different types of cancer, 10 of the 17 cancers are obesity related, and 12 suggesting a potential role of obesity in emerging cancer trends. You don't want to go out like that. You don't want to go out with the statement fresh off of your lips. Oh, I ain't gonna change. I gotta have my meat. One of my friends has told me, one of my dearest friends, Brother Curtis, told me that despite the fact that he went vegan and that he used the vegan lifestyle, I think he went vegan. He might be slipping around every now and then. But he used the vegan lifestyle to help his ex-wife reverse a number of serious conditions that she had: gout, autoimmune disorder, and all of that. But she aggressively reverted. And from my last conversation with my brother Curtis, she had to have a kidney transplant. Now she's got to be on immune suppressive drugs for the rest of her life so that she won't reject that kidney. And she had made the statement, I got to have my meat. She aggressively said, I don't care what you say. I'm going to eat this meat anyway, even if it kills me. Somebody talk to me. Somebody talk to Curtis's wife. Share with me what's on your mind, what you are hearing. I'm not seeing any commentary. I know you're there. I appreciate you being there. But we're going to have to do much, much better than this. We're going to have to do much better than what we are doing. Let me go back to quotes. These are doctors who are exposing the cancer industry. They include the following quotes, which I'm going to share with you today, right now. Following quotes. Doctors who expose the cancer industry. The first one comes from Professor Charles Math. Quote, if I contracted cancer, I would never go to a standard cancer treatment center. Cancer victims who live far from such centers have a chance. Now, that does somewhat contrast from what we talked about earlier with the geographical location of the cancer industries are generally located in the big cities. But I'm not going to say it's not true. I would say it does contrast with research I read from a little bit earlier, which was, of course, taken from AI, which AI has a strong tendency to support conventional medicine. Number two, this quote from Dr. Dean Burke about the American Cancer Society. Dr. Dean Burke is quoted as saying, they lie like scoundrels. Close quote. Wow. From Dr. James Watson, co-discoverer of DNA, 1976, quote, the American public is being sold a nasty bill of goods about cancer. Today, the press releases coming out of the National Cancer Institute have all of the honesty of the Pentagons. Close quote. Dr. Glenn Warner writes, quote, we have a multi-billion-dollar industry that is killing people, right and left, just for financial gain. Their idea of research is to see whether 2 doses of this poison is better than 3 doses of that poison. Dr. Glenn Warner. And one more quote I'll share from Hippocrates, the Greek. It is better not to apply any treatment in cases of occult cancer, for if treated, the patient dies quickly. But if not treated, they hold out for a long time. Hippocrates. Wow. We are talking today about critiques of the cancer industry, of the oncology industry. I have my critiques, no doubt. One more I'm going to share, this one from the same quote. Two more I'm going to share, because one is from one of my favorite doctors. This one from Dr. Hardin B. Jones in 1969 said, quote, "My studies have proved conclusively that untreated cancer victims live up to 4 times longer than treated individuals. If one has cancer and opts to do nothing at all, he will live longer and feel better than if he undergoes radiation, chemotherapy, and surgery." And last quote I'm going to share right here is from Dr. Gary Null. And my friend, Dr. Gary Null, has the following to say, quote, "But today in the United States, and this shows you where fascism really exists, any doctor in the United States who cures cancer using alternative methods will be destroyed. You cannot name me a doctor doing well with cancer using alternative therapies that is not under attack. And I know these people. I've interviewed them." That from Dr. Gary Null. And yeah, Gary Null has a lot of credibility around here at LIB Radio. I'm going to begin to wrap it up. We're talking first about biological mechanisms linking obesity to cancer. I think I did read that already. They include chronic inflammation. Excessive fat can trigger long-term inflammation, which damages DNA and promotes growth. And here, 1 second, let me just highlight this and bold and bullets. And next point, this is under biological mechanisms linking obesity to cancer. Chronic inflammation, excess fat can trigger long-term inflammation, which damages DNA and promotes tumor growth. Number 2, insulin resistance. Obesity often leads to high insulin and insulin-like growth factor levels, which can stimulate cell proliferation and inhibit cancer death. Cell death can inhibit cancer cell death. 3, altered immune function. Obesity can impair immune surveillance, making it harder for the body to detect and destroy abnormal cells. And there was one more, I skipped over it. It says hormonal imbalances. Fat cells produce estrogen, and elevated levels of estrogen are linked to hormone-sensitive cancers like breast and endometrial cancer. And they used to say that exposure to estrogen disrupting chemicals, EDCs, was a cause for prostate cancer in men. But they switched directions. They changed it. And now they say higher levels of not estrogen, but testosterone are linked to the explosion of prostate cancer diagnoses among men. I personally find that to be really, really strange. And as a consequence of those high levels of what they say are testosterone provoking prostate cancer, the treatment therefore includes chemical castration to be able to knock out your testosterone and essentially to cancel your sex as a man because of this prostate diagnosis. Personally, I think the state of oncology in America, personally, I think it's outrageous. They're too contradictory. Most people are totally unaware of the contradictions. I talk to men diagnosed with prostate cancer at least every 2 weeks or so. And the brothers confuse me. They confuse the heck out of me. Almost said a nasty word there. They confuse the heck out of me. They really do. We, especially black men, we are so bold in defiance. We're so bold in defiance against so many things. The government, the rich people. And so, but when it comes to doctors, we're like sheep. We just bow down, cow down right before them, do anything and everything they want to say. This is the same guy who used to beat you when he owned you. This is the same guy who took away your name, your spirituality. The same guy who abused you every kind of way, including in the medical hierarchy. Abused you, abused Henrietta Lacks. They experimented on us all over the place. But now, when they tell you you have prostate cancer, you just roll over on your belly and say, "Have at me." That's pretty doggone vulgar, if you ask me. I did mention earlier, and I'm going to mention it again, cancers most strongly linked to obesity include breast cancer. I read this already. Colorectal, endometrial, esophageal, kidney, pancreatic, fatty, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and inflammation are key drivers. Gallbladder, ovarian, thyroid, upper stomach cancer, meningioma, type of brain tumor linked to hormonal changes, multiple myeloma, and there is this next paragraph. I'm going to skip over I'll read it. A recent study found that tirzepatide, a weight loss drug, not only reduced fat in obese mice, but also shrunk breast cancer tumors, suggesting weight loss may directly impact cancer progression. And that's to be appreciated. Couple more points here. Bear with me. Couple more points I want to share. Central obesity, belly fat, or abdominal obesity is especially dangerous. It is metabolically active and more strongly linked to cancer than body mass index alone. And last point, childhood cancer survivors with obesity face higher risk of secondary cancers later in life, especially emphasizing the importance of long-term weight management. So, lastly, prevention and risk reduction, weight loss, number 1. 2, physical activity and balanced diet. And 3, metabolic screening and waist circumference measurements may offer better risk assessments than BMI alone. I made it through all of that. There's a lot of research. And it's rather exhausting if you ask me. I do have the book, A Year Against Cancer. And I'm going to recommend my book, A Year Against Cancer, to everyone out there who is serious about preventing cancer. If you, let me capitalize that, if you are serious about preventing cancer in your life, get my book, A Year Against Cancer, at quote, at http keidi.biz keidi.biz/CRP Conscious Roster Press 2012. Now let me double check that, because when I talk and type at the same time, it gets pretty messy. But I did get it right. I'm going to put that up in the chat. I'm going to put it up also on the YouTube page for those of you who are viewing us on YouTube, and I'm going to put it up in the Rumble chat, and also put it up in the. Who are viewing us on YouTube, and I'm going to put it up. Sorry about that. One sec. I'm put it up in the Rumble in today's comment section. If you are serious about preventing cancer in your lifetime, you need to get my book, A Year Against Cancer, at http://keidi.biz, not Cox, biz, B-I-Z. I don't know how I wrote Cox. So that's all I have to say for today. Let me put this link up one more time, because I did put up keidi.cox, and that didn't make any sense at all. So I want you all to understand what this is about. This is about survival. It is about thriving. It is about knowing beyond a shadow of a doubt that we've got it covered. For me, cancer is just not a possibility. We're eliminating the possibility of cancer. And I didn't even type it in right. It's not Cox, it's not Bix, it's Biz. Let me change this right now. keidi.biz, not X. keidi.biz. And I'm going to type it in one more time for our YouTube listeners. How did I mess that up? Ooh, it gets confusing inside my head some days. And I'm going to type it up one more time here. Not Cox, but Biz. And did I get it right in the... No, I didn't get it right in the... comment section. So I'm going to get it right in the comment section right now. keidi.biz. And I apologize to everybody having to type this in so many times. You have to understand this is a lot of responsibility trying to do what I do, share the research, share all of the things that I do. It's not easy. And I'm exhausted. Fact is, I'm tired. And on that note, I'm just going to unapologetically just abruptly end the program for today. I want to thank you all for being tuned in to LIB Radio, LIB TV, and livinginblack.com. We are the people's news and information source. And I do encourage each and every one of you to be a part of our ongoing long-term success here on the people's news and information site. We are LIB Radio, LIB TV. We are livinginblack.com. So peace and prosperity to each and every one of you. On your favorite, we aim to be your favorite. We are LIB Radio, LIB TV, and livinginblack.com.